Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. And just a couple of announcements. Remember, a week from tomorrow at 6 p.m. starts Happy Hour. This is for members only, and we're going to have 1 hour of positivity. That's all that's allowed, 1 hour of positivity at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're a member and you want to register, just send me an email at pampopper@msn.com or call our office. Also, tomorrow, Friday, April 30th, is a conference call at 2 p.m. about careers, professional development programs through Wellness Forum Health and Careers. And I'm going to also offer that same conference call on Tuesday, May 4th at 8:30 p.m. So if you're interested in knowing more and participating in a really good discussion about opportunities where I see healthcare going, things that we can do to help you, what I think would be a good idea for you to pursue, and so on. Again, pampopper@msn.com. I'll add you to the list and send you the conference call information. And then we're continuing to do the Curious About COVID workshops that are free for non-members, and Lose the COVID 25 and Health Lessons from COVID are scheduled for May. Those are member events. So lots of good things coming. And don't forget, Dr. Atlas is going to be our special guest speaker at our conference this year. You don't want to miss it. Register now because we are going to sell out. All right. An unfortunate byproduct, there's so many unfortunate byproducts of the COVID nonsense, is the missed opportunities to educate people about really what matters pertaining to health. For example, we know that obese diabetics have a higher risk of COVID and cancer and heart disease and blindness and stroke and lower limb amputation and so on. The number of obese diabetics has been increasing, not decreasing in our country. So public health officials could have used this opportunity to motivate obese diabetics and those who are at risk of becoming obese or diabetic to change their ways. I mean, both of these conditions can be prevented, and both of them respond really well to diet and lifestyle change. Here's another lesson from COVID that should be a featured news story and isn't getting enough attention. Physical inactivity increases the risk of the most severe COVID outcomes, according to a new study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. People who are consistently inactive have a higher risk of hospitalization, admission to ICU, and death than people who consistently met the government physical activity guidelines, which really don't involve much physical activity when you come right down to it. The US government recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per week. Well, prior to March of 2020, most weren't even doing that. And things got worse, not better, during the time of the lockdowns and the gym and yoga studio closures and all that sort of thing. We lost opportunities for team sports and 5Ks. And so whatever physical inactivity we were dealing with back then, it's worse now. There are many, many ways in which exercise decreases the risk of all viral infections as well as other diseases. First of all, immune function is boosted by exercise, and people who engage in regular exercise have a lower incidence of viral infections or disease in general, less severe symptoms, lower mortality from almost, as I said, all infections. Additionally, regular physical activity reduces systemic inflammation, which is a main contributor to all diseases. I mean, inflammation is common to diseases, but a main contributor to lung damage from viral infections like COVID. Perhaps most important, particularly during these times, is that exercise is one of the most significant contributors to mental health. And there's no question that mental health has suffered just as much as physical health during this time. I mean, we have more suicides and more drug overdoses and more people returning to drinking alcohol. And then, of course, we've had a lot of people using cookies and chocolate to make themselves feel better, which has contributed more to obesity, which raises inflammation levels and so on, and contributes to just a greater chance that something bad is going to happen, and it could be a severe case of COVID. Well, according to this study, physical activity eclipsed smoking and all other chronic diseases in terms of influence on COVID outcomes, and the effect was dose dependent. In other words, the more active the person is, the lower the risk of all of those things, ICU admission, hospital admission, and death. Now, a main limitation acknowledged by the authors of the study was that the data were self-reported. And we know that people tend to over-report their good behaviors and under-report their bad behaviors, which means that actually the result or the effect of exercise is even more profound than what is reflected in this particular study. There's good news in all of this, really, and that is if exercise really is the most important thing. If you're diabetic and obese, it might take you a while to reverse those conditions, but exercise is more important than that, and the weather's getting better. I'm sitting in my home office and the sun's shining in, and it's actually pretty warm outside. So you can just get outside and start walking for a half hour, 45 minutes a day, and you will be well on your way to reversing the sedentary lifestyle you may have adapted, and well on your way to reducing your risk of all kinds of bad things happening. I mean, the only bad thing that can happen to you is not just COVID. I mean, the bad things that can happen to you if you're sedentary and you don't eat well, I mean, it's a very long list that would take me till the end of the afternoon to describe to you. So this is kind of a wake-up call maybe for everybody that, hey, it's time to, regardless of what's going on out there, get busy taking care of ourselves, because we do have a choice. A lot of things we don't have a choice about, but one thing we can decide to do is to take care of ourselves and protect ourselves to the greatest extent possible from as much of this stuff as we can. All right, this is all for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. I will be back to you tomorrow with more news. Remember, I put out a newsletter on Monday, and there are videos on Wednesday and Friday that you have to subscribe to. So if you want to see all of the stuff that I'm putting out, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. And if you want to participate in some of those things that I mentioned earlier, before I started talking to you about exercise, my favorite thing to promote, then send me also an email to pampopper@msn.com.